Okay, here we are at the beginning of the fourth turn in Automobile. This is the final turn. And now I'm picking my characters. I've grabbed the, the valuations. We're going to get one additional low-end car here available. One additional demand chit for that. Every turn is different for that. And I'm looking at Green's options. And here, it's easier to kind of rule things out, right? So, as I look through them, kind of saying, well, I don't need Kettering because I probably do not need more cubes. I have enough cubes to get me through with Green. I have a couple of plants. I may not want to close this one. Even though it's way at the bottom of the line, I'm only going to be picking up 2 penalty cubes at most for it because there are so few low-end cars, right? No, 1, 2, I may pick up 3. Okay, because the next one's coming up here. That's $150, but I have a decent amount of production here. Probably, or there's a decent chance that I'll be able to sell all of my low-end cars because there's increased demand for them. So with 2 of them for sale, let's say I can sell 9 of them for $450. I pay $450, but I make, say, $450. That may be over-optimistic, but let's say I can make like $370, just to pick a random number, or $400 or something off of that. Well, the couple of cubes I'm going to get off of that are only going to cost me $80. So it seems to me it's worth keeping the plant open at this point. Closing plants earlier made more sense for the simple reason that the market, the long-term prospects weren't good anymore. But at this time I'm looking, I can optimize based on one turn. It is tough to pick a character though at this point. And I could put a lot of calculation into this. So for example, if I'm looking at Ford or Durant, I'm looking at building another factory of some sort or another. Now, right now, that means over $500 as the prices increase. And you'll notice there's a lot of different car types still available. It doesn't look likely that you'll run the car types out. I thought that would be more likely in 5. I think I'm being very conservative here. Nobody's trying to push the cars out and crush someone that way, which is certainly a valid way to try to play. But I don't usually approach a game that way at the beginning, although it's kind of fun to try out different strategies. I'm still having a feel for this. This isn't like, when I pick up a new XX game and think, ooh, maybe I could do that. Because this is a different design from anything else that I've seen. So, with that kind of expenditure, then I have to think, well, okay, so if I'm talking about that kind of money, I have $1,600. That's a good amount of money, but if I spend 500 of that, I have 1,000. My production's gonna cost about that. I don't know if I really need that extra action. I probably need an extra factory though. But I don't know that I think Ford may be too much, because that would be saying not only do I build an extra type of car, but I'm going to build an extra factory somewhere. Of course, I could just buckle down and make my Roamers, which are pretty high up, a decent production car, and up the factory there. The cost per car is high though for those. And the income made off them isn't necessarily that much better. So yes, I'll be making $200 each if I can sell them. But the production, the higher production of the other cars means that I actually make a decent profit off them. And if you look at the investment to profit, I'm paying $100 per car to $200. Of course, if you look, the cost of this factory is less than this one. You've got all kinds of things to balance in here. All kinds of different input into your decisions. And it may be too complex to calculate, which could be a positive thing, could be a negative thing. I could see some players being very unhappy faced with this level. For me, I mostly figure I can't make these decisions except off the gut. And I'm happy with that, actually. Okay. So let's look. I'll continue thinking offline because I don't want to waste a lot of time chattering about this, but I did want to kind of point out the nature of the decisions is a little different. Knowing that this is the last turn, I feel like I have a better. At earlier turns, I felt like I could, just, okay, I'm going to want more factories, or I'm going to want this. Now I feel like it's beginning to come into the grasp of being calculable. And that's the line where it gets difficult. And that's why I'm trying to make these thoughts very carefully, as opposed to just, oh yeah, I probably need more of this, or, and I do have enough input. I know how much cash I have. You always know that, but the cash, remember, is running kind of short. I know how much a loan's going to cost me. It's going to cost me $150 at this point. So I've got to make $150 off that $500 loan. There's no question of that. I can't take it otherwise. I like to play cautiously, and I don't tend to take risks, but some people may be behind, and it may be worthwhile for them to take the loans. And remember, in the end, you get the cash for the factories. You don't have to worry about that, which is another reason not to close these suckers down. They're worth $700 at the end of the game. They're only worth $500 between them if I sell them back by closing. All right, I'll make my decision. Sorry for chattering. Indeed, those choices were a little harder. Let's take a look. I don't remember the ordering, but the two factory builders, Durant and Ford, went fairly early in the ordering with the idea that, I need to up my production on this turn. I don't pay a price for upping production in late model cars, particularly, unless I produce too many. That money comes back to me, and it may help me make income. So they were very appealing and extra action, as it were. With those gone, Blue, who needed to produce more things, really took the choice, and he didn't have too many other options. He has no obsolete factories. He may need a lot of cubes. So Kettering seemed like a good choice. Chrysler might have been almost as good, getting him one cube less. He's got a lot there. But what he's looking at is, I'm going to have to buy 2 new car types, and then, well, maybe I need to buy the first advertising, So that's 4 cubes, and maybe I want another advertising on the other car. There's a 5th cube. I think I overdid it. I think I'd have been better off taking Chrysler, because Chrysler is going to let me get rid of 4 black cubes if I accumulate some. But I'm not counting on accumulating too many, which is really why I went with Kettering instead of Chrysler. Well, I didn't need Chrysler's ability, but I needed it more than I need maybe that extra cube of Kettering's, because I've got 1 black cube and I may pick up another one. Reason for Sloan here, Red has some kind of older factories. He's going to reduce his amount of black cubes that he pulls in. He's going to be paying a pretty hefty price here. Taking 4 of them away with Chrysler might have been more valuable than taking Sloan as well. Nobody took Chrysler, though. I think that was a mistake, looking back in hindsight. Yellow for Howard. Again, Chrysler could get rid of some cubes. The reason I kept not taking Chrysler is I count my cubes that he's going to get rid of. He's going to get rid of 4 cubes. That's $160. That's a decent amount of money, but I thought I could make more. So, for example, with Howard, if I sell 2 additional cars, well, that's 160 extra bucks, plus maybe 2 cubes that I don't end up getting. Of course, I may be clearing cubes for someone else. So it's hard to judge which way it's going to fall. It's just Howard seemed like he gives as much. But you never know. Maybe you'd sell everything without him. And I really don't think you can plan all that out. And then Durant here, he's the other factory guy. Green wants to build more production. Maybe here, maybe on another factory. We'll see. Then we go to the... My habit to walk away from the table for a little while. Came back and found this on the floor. Now that's a big amount of money to disappear. Looking at the cash, it looks like it's Reds they had over $1,000 and they don't seem to anymore. They're also the closest to the window. I guess, you know, if it had been a 500, that would have been even harder. I'd have to go back at the video because I did, on the last video, go over everybody's cash. Anyway, kind of a humorous little interlude there. Let's start with my actions. I don't know what to do. You know, I'm looking at orange and I'm just like, wow. Because I'm at that point where it is becoming calculable, where I do, I bet this came from him too, where I do have enough information. I should have a paperweight around here somewhere. I used to have a big chunk of lucite that my work gave me, but, you know, saying, oh, for so many years of service or whatever. Like, not many. I mean, it was a chunk of plastic, but it was really a cheap gift. I don't know if I threw it out or put it somewhere saying this could be useful or just left it at the office when I changed jobs, but I could use it now. I found a couple of times the wind's beginning to catch me here. Anyway, when the orange, you know, when I'm looking at this, I'm at this point where, Jesus, I should be able to calculate this all out. And that's what I hate. That's where I stop liking a game, is at that point. And I feel like everybody's got that point on their actions for this last turn. Actions previous to this, you can't do it. Actions here, it's right at that limit. I can't absolutely calculate. It's not like Carcassonne where I can just count up all the farmers and say, yeah, this is obviously what I want to do. It's one where I can look and see how much money do I have, how much of this. And I'm not used to doing it for this game. There's a few points in 18xx where you have to do it, but I'm used to it there. I'm used to the feel of it. So, you know, it's not really a criticism against the game. It's just, it's tainting my flavor of it, doing it on video like this. I would have been much better many years ago when I was less complaining. Okay, I always complain, but had I found this game then and not already had a whole bunch of games that I've gotten kind of used to making this level of decision on. I'll try to ride this one out, though. An interesting combination. Some going kind of cautious, some not. Over here, I built another factory. Now, I haven't used Ford yet. I'm going to use him just before I produce, I think. I'm probably going to be building a tool factory the way things are going, because it looks like some cars are coming out, but not that many. But there's going to be heavy production. So I want to reduce the cost of what I build. Kettering, I slide forward and grab myself a low-end car. I'm only going to get 3 actions with Kettering. One's got to be produce cars. So now the next one is, do I want to buy another one of these factories, or do I want to get, because my white cubes don't really help me, do I want to get the high-end car out there as well? I've got a decent amount of salesmen. I got to be careful because I got to make sure I produce enough cars for all those salesmen. So for this I get 4. That's 4 there, 2 there. So right now I can produce, if no matter what I build, I can produce 1. So I'm okay with blue, but he's got to build another factory of some sort. I might as well branch into the other type because that allows me. So this will go first out of these. This will go first out of the low end. Even if I produce more somehow, more cars than I can sell with salesmen, which may be a stretch. If I only have these 2 factories, which is one of my options, my salesmen are filled up by that, or they fill up my car orders, so I won't be using the demand at all. Which means it kind of sucks, right? Because I could be way back down there if I'm just selling them with salesmen. But, well, I got the newest cars and the salesmen, and I'm not going to affect the market at all, and that's kind of a pity. So maybe what I want to do is I want to throw here and get the additional production here that's bigger. Of course, then I'm wasting all these white cubes I picked up with Kettering for some reason. Yeah, some of them I can use on advertising. I don't need advertising. Shit. Okay. For red, I think I increased production on the low end cars. Yellow, also increased production on the low end cars. Remember, there's a lot of demand for that out there, supposedly. Although, when I look at my chit, that's not clear. But my little segment of the vision of the demand is very low. And he's planning on buying a tool factory here so he can produce big time 10 to 14 cars at reduced price. That sounds very valuable. He may want to, but if he builds the factory, he then has to do the production, and he doesn't have the salesman for it. A lot of tough calls here. Green, the Durant, he used his special ability to grab a new type of car, and now he also threw some more salesmen out there. He wants to make sure he gets all his vehicles in play. So that extra production ability that Ford or Durant gives is really important at this point in the game. It's a valuable tool at any point in the game, but I think there's a reason that I grabbed them early. They look like they outshine everything else on the last turn when you want to get your production up. Of course, you don't want to get it up so high you can't sell the stuff, but it gives you... Anybody can build production. I can also be building more salesmen or whatever at the same time and increase everything at once. And that's why it's the extra action that's the big deal. Now we're back on 4. Extra action is kind of questionable if you don't have the cash, and that's where Orange's position is. He has the money to build one more factory. He's going to build a tool factory probably. He does not have the cash without taking out a loan to build another factory in with that. So then what do you do with your extra action? Well, salesman... Oh, gee, yeah, okay. Salesman, I could throw 3 more salesmen into play, but the salesman is already a crowded aspect to the game. Of course, I'm taking away from other people's ability to use their salesman if I do that, so that's probably where I'm going to go. R&D cubes doesn't help me. I could produce cars twice. Do I have that kind of money? Maybe. That's heavier than the factories. So if I've got 2 factories here at mid-size, that would cost me about $500 to build them all. But if I drop them down to $50 each with the factory, with the tool thing, that goes up to $350, $700, and then I've got these suckers, 8, 9, 10, 1,000. I don't have that kind of money. I'm not going to have that kind of money. If I do it the other way, well, 7 times 7 is 490. That's $500. I have about enough to just produce those twice. See, the tool factory, I'll get the $500 back for that at the end of the game. I may need to take a loan, though. I feel like he's not doing terribly well cash-wise. So maybe pushing that production makes sense. We'll do that. Now that I've done that, I'm getting cold feet. I have 7 of these to get rid of. I may need to get those guys up there. I've done it already. I've spent the money. I'm not going to take the loan out, though, if I go, obviously, with the salesman. But I don't really see that I can sell 4 of these and 14 of these in any reasonable fashion. And now as we go to the 3rd round, remember Orange with their cold feet. Well, maybe they can if they grab this first off and sell these suckers at really low prices. And maybe they can undercut everybody else. Somebody's going to do it at low prices. Why not me? Yeah, I don't know. He's behind. He's going to go for it. In the last round, everybody drills in with as much production as they possibly can, more or less. Some people cutting their values down, not taking as much production as possible, for the simple fact that, oh boy, there's a lot out there. I'm not going to take out a loan to go to maximum, so this guy didn't go up there. But you can see the low-end cars, wow, they've really cranked up. And a lot of it's going to come down to who grabs one of these. Some people went a little low, like here. Green is actually going very conservatively, but he's got to get something to help him sell these. He's got a lot of salesmen, but he may still need to crank some more of those, at least some advertising or something. Right now we go to Chucky Boy here, and well, what am I going to have trouble selling is the question. There's a whole bunch of these here. They're going to be selling fast. I've got a lot of these that I got to dump out too. That's really the question, is which one do I need to sell? Which one is more important for me to sell? I think there's going to be, there's going to be 2 gone here. Let's say there's like 4 gone here, so that's 6. 7, maybe 8. I'm going to have real trouble maybe getting rid of these. There's 5 counters. If they're like 3 each, I'm not going to get a second time around. That's the problem that I see. So I'm going to sell, well, I've got salesmen though. And here's the problem. This might go pretty heavily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell 1 of each of these, and that'll get me 250 quick buck. Obviously there's enough information on the board that I could figure out what everybody's likely to do, but I don't want to go there. And then we go to the big old salesman run, and here, by going early in the turn, you get an advantage in terms of being able to maybe place extra salesmen earlier. Got some more money on the floor. I think it's from the bank, but who the hell knows? And I wasn't gone. I just, when I'm paying attention, that's why I think it's from the bank, because I don't think I was gone when it was there. I walked to the bathroom after having played for a while, and there was money just kicking around down here. This money is really, really light. There has not been a breeze that I felt, and it just went flying off. This is the crappiest paper money I think I've seen by far. It really does not comport well with the rest of the components that come with this game. And all the showrooms have been stocked. You can see we filled up almost everything. There's just 1 medium left open. A lot of sales out here, which I'll take care of in a moment. But poor Blue, they had a car to sell, but no room for more showrooms. So that screws them into a black cube, as well as losing their salesman. Losing the salesman doesn't really matter at this stage in the game. One thing I feel with these games with few turns, and I'm feeling it here definitely, is this kind of, geez, you want this pattern to continue many, many times. So the last turn, which is calculable, maybe isn't that important. With only 4 turns, and granted, there's a lot you're doing in a turn, but it feels like this should be going longer. Not just because there's more cars. I think that may be, that's a design decision, I think, to prevent you from being unfairly hindered. I think even a very aggressive strategy probably won't push, by all the players, probably won't push the cars forward. But there is the damaging of other players' ability, which we saw here with Blue wanting to do this, Green doing that. But people have things that they have in their background. They don't necessarily want to hurt themselves more, and making money off of what you have is easier than pushing out more things. There are different ways to push the situation too. It's not just pushing the cars out. It's not like those other ones crash and become obsolete. They just start costing more. So you can make more money by building up heavily. And no big sales room push by the orange player. They've got tons and tons of pieces. Red is also kind of low on their salesmen, so they've got a lot of pieces. That's going to be a problem. And we're in the stage where that problem comes to light. Is there any big reason for anybody to want this? Well, there are people with a lot of cubes. This guy would save 120 bucks if he closed a factory. Of course, closing a factory means you lose 100 bucks. But it could be of some value. I don't think it's the top ranked thing. So for example, Orange here has a lot they want to sell. They're going to discount their price. They want to sell the most cars they possibly can. They might be able to get an advertising cube off that. That puts us to Blue. Blue doesn't care about any of these. They certainly don't want to close their factory. We're just going to pull them off the thing. This doesn't matter. They're not gaining anything by going there. But there's nothing they want. Well, maybe they do want something. They got cubes. They'll spend their cubes to grab an advertising campaign. Why? Because it denies it to other people. What the hell? That'll screw other people's plans. No reason to... Those white cubes are not useful at all at this point in the game. Okay. And I could, of course, close a factory and take that ability away from people. But then I'm losing cash. I don't have a lot of cubes there, so it's not really worth much. And I'm not going to be gaining cubes off my factories either. Oh, I haven't given the money out there. I'll do that in a moment, but I want to go through the rest of this. Red. Red's got a pile of sales here. There's no reason to prefer this anymore. The discount that he took is not of any advantage. It was of an advantage to him because it allows him to sell 2 extra cars, but simply buying an advertising slot here will let me sell more cars, or as many cards as a discount will at this point. That puts us to yellow. Yellow also has a pile of cars to sell and will also do an advertising campaign. Oh well, I didn't get my advertising campaign for this, so I'm only selling 3 cars each round instead of the 4 that I had been aiming for. On to green. Green has kind of a pile here. Do I want to discount them? Well, I'm going to have real trouble selling them without a discount. I think. I don't know, because this is all I've got, to tell me. I've got 5, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 12. There could be like 17 of them for sale. Let's estimate that and see what we get here. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, at the very least, I want to discount them because I don't think I'm going to sell all of them. So I'm not going to count it all out. I'm just going to grab that discount. And now we go back to orange. Now, orange cannot further discount these. Is he interested in discounting his luxury cars? Well, that's not allowed. As you notice, the luxury cars only have 1 slot. You can advertise them, you can't discount them. So now, question is, do I want to close a factory maybe? This one's going to cost me a cube because there's 1 luxury car ahead of it. And I don't have any other cubes I'd be getting rid of, so it's only $40 to close it. I'll lose $100 if I don't have it at the end of the game, so I want to keep it running. So I actually will be going with the pass here. And that puts it on blue. I could take this discount marker and I think put it here. Let me make sure that's not disallowed. But that would take another option out of people's hands. Do I want to do that? I don't know, because I'm giving those sales to someone else. I'm spreading them out more. Who would I be taking that away from? Who might want it? Red might want it. Red is doing quite well. So yes, I would like to do that if I can. So let's see if I'm allowed to do that. It has to be a production space where you produced cars. You cannot put it on a space without produced cars. I would say that would disallow. I've sold those already. I can't do anything by doing that. So I'll also crash because my cars are fine. All I'd be doing is giving up 1 cube, and that's not worth it for the cash that it would cost me. On to red. Red does want the discount. Alternatively, they might want to close that. They've got a lot of cubes. I think selling cars is more important. All right. That puts us to yellow. Yellow has a pile of cubes. Yellow is going to take the close action. I lose a lot of money on this. Let's make sure I want to do this, because that is 2 of these. Of course, I'm taking the ability away from someone. But I'm going to lose $200 by drawing that. In addition to that $200, I get rid of 3 cubes and this factory, which is going to cost me 1, 2, 3 more cubes. 6 cubes is $240. It sounds like I make money off of closing the factory. Remember, the reason I'm losing 200 bucks is I only get 700 for these factories, and they're worth 900. I'll give that money, and I'll give the money for the others. I'll give that money right now. How about? There's my 700. I still have to give the money out for those. There's nothing left to do. Orange just went, right? No, yellow just went. Green gets to go. And none of this matters, but I like to do things for completeness. All right, time to assign the money for those factories, and then we'll draw the chits and see what we've... There's our drawn demand chits that people already had. Now we're going to draw one for the high-end cars, see how many of them are up for sale or available. Okay, it looks like everybody's going to sell their high-end cars. There was some definite risk there. There's 3 of them. If somebody could, or 4 of them, somebody could have gotten, you know, as low as a 2 on this draw. And we also get 1 additional chit for the low-end cars for here, which will help because there's a lot of those. And now we start cycling through the car factories to see what we can sell. So, for example, we hit a low end here. That's going to go at full price because I'm not marked down. Here, 3 mid-sized at lower price, and everyone was actually able to sell everything. There was slack of 1 of these left after all those orange ones were sold. So I didn't need to discount. You didn't know, though. You didn't know how good the sales for this would come out. And in fact, I think I cheated because this 5 here shouldn't be here. But we'll pretend it was okay anyway. Because I don't know, maybe one of these should not be here. All the cheap ends definitely sold out. Again, a lot of people at discount there. They didn't need to be. There was significant slack, 3 there, and would have been more. Like this did not belong here. I think it probably was this, but I don't know. I placed my chits poorly. It's very hard for me not to think go more to the higher one, whatever. This ended up being a good draw for the people with luxury cars because they could have really gotten kind of shafted on that. Anyway, everybody comes out okay. No way of telling, did you really need that discount until you count them up and actually see how much demand there is. And now we assign the cash to everyone. And then as soon as I do that, well, we finish up the turn. We don't really care. This does matter, and then the fees for the turn matter. And then there's the final end of the game stuff. And if we page through all this stupid example play stuff, we end up with you just have to repay your loans at $600, and then you get the cash for your factories, full value. So, just going to be doing a lot of calculations. Lots of lost cubes collected, not for cars in this case, but you can see some pretty big hefty piles growing here. Not so much for blue. Red's got 6 of them. That's important that he keep his aside because he has Durant. He gets to throw 3 of them away. And, you know, you still got a healthy amount of them. At this point, we got to do payments. Nobody took Chrysler, so nobody's going to be able to buy any more off. And we got to pay off the lost cubes. And a couple of people have loans. I like to do at the end of a game, I spreadsheeted everything out and ended up, you know, with the cash on hand. Now you'll notice the cash on hand blue has the most of that, but that's because they didn't get to recover their position very easily. They made their big sell-off, had a lot of cash, they were able to produce, sell everything, but that selling everything wasn't that great. So that's not really an indication of last turn money-making capability, so much as the fact that they had a lot of cash on hand at the beginning of the turn and couldn't use it all. Others, though, made actually had fairly decent amounts of cash on hand. But we got to keep in mind red and orange, and I forgot about this momentarily, have a loan out each. That's $600 they're going to be penalized, so you got to be taking that off their cash on hand. But wow, yellow has a lot of money. Why so much? I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure that out. They certainly made a lot off of this turn's production, but they've been kind of hanging back low profile, not doing the big moves that Blue did. Just sort of slowly optimizing along. I didn't feel like they had any huge advantages. They did close this plant, made a few bucks off that, but that's certainly not enough to win it. Anyway, then when we go down to capitalization, the story gets a little different. You can see Blue has very little. Green actually has a lot. That's because they have this old factory back here, and that's been costing them money, but it's still worth 700 plus 500, 1,200 bucks up there in capital value. Red has as much capital value, more modern stuff. Again, they went into big production at the end. Yellow, not so much. And then we came up with the values, and yellow won even before the $600 penalty for the loans was taken out. They were doing that much better, and I just did not see it. Just sort of huff it along, not making huge amounts of sales. They got their salesman out and Howard to try to sell cars at the end at full value, which probably helped. But I don't have anything that really distinguishes them. The big risk takers were red and orange with their loans, especially orange, their last turn gamble. I don't feel like I feel like it helped them. They made up some ground with it. It's just it was too late for whatever they were doing wrong, which feels very much like whatever yellow was doing to me. I'm going to have to play it a lot more to get a feel, and that'll probably never happen. Not that I dislike the game. I think I could like this quite a bit. But like an 18XX, when I first ran into that, I had this certain kind of bemused, wow, that's cool that people crashed and burned. And that kind of incited me to play more. And I played it quite a bit, both solitaire and with other people. I'm not going to have that opportunity with this, just because I have so many damn games now. That I can't really step down and say, I don't think, whether or not I think that this actually provides something as interesting as an 18XX experience. In a sense, I'd kind of like to be in that position where I could just say, this is the cool new game I found, and I'll study it the way I did. And I don't know if I was really studying, but I was just so hooked on it. I don't know if I could get that way with this, though, because the storyline doesn't capture me the way XX's does. This is something where you're moving little cubes around on the chart. I think it adequately represents the subject matter. It just doesn't produce that storyline that's so all important to me. I mean, I want a few things, and in this game, I think it actually does better as a simulation than it does as a narrative. All right, I'm going to put this one up, and I'll come back with a review where I'll probably say a lot of the same things that I've been saying elsewhere, and probably leave a few important things out. That's just the way of my